So I've basically tried and failed 3 times to make this video now, but if you can tell by the car, we're not in Europe anymore and we're back in Canada. We're in Metro Vancouver, and this is home. Been back a few times since I started making videos, and I've always wanted to make a British Columbia, Metro Vancouver travelogue type video. Not one that counts towards the 30 European countries that I want to visit, but just one that just captures home a little bit. I thought that'd be kind of fun. But for whatever reason, the earlier times I've come back, I've flown back 3 times now since I started making these videos, or 4 times actually. And I just always either run out of time, I just don't end up doing it. I've really been wanting to do it. So we're back now and we're finally doing it. So I'm pretty excited. We have about a week left before I fly back to Europe. So in that week, I hope to capture enough photos and enough footage to make a little video. I did 2 other trips, 2 other mini trips from here. I've been to Nelson, BC, and I've been to Victoria, both of which I got some footage and a couple of pictures, but not too much. So the bulk of this video is going to be Metro Vancouver. When I'm thinking of Metro Vancouver, I'm thinking of Canada as a whole. There's one place that comes to mind that I think is a great place to start.
What can I get for you?
Could I get a regular black coffee? Thank you. From there, I think I'm just gonna drive east, see what comes up, you know? Some interesting farms maybe. I might visit a friend on a farm. That would be cool. Maybe some woods. Something that feels like Canada. And instead of a photo walk, this is more of like a photo drive type video, given we are in North America. But I think it's gonna be fun. And given I'm in a car, I think it's a lot easier to talk rather than having to find a more secluded spot. But let's start with our first stop. All right, so we got our Timmy's. And this is exactly the kind of setting I was hoping for, because I feel like the color is really nice, and yeah, just kind of like a view I don't get too much, at least where I'm living in Europe. We're a bit spoiled today with the actual film that I'm using because I have Portra 400 in the camera, which obviously is one of the best films. And I use it pretty sparingly, obviously, because it is quite expensive relative to some other options. But I did a ski trip, and I feel like mountain settings with like snow are some of like the best lighting conditions you can get, because you just have like plenty of light everywhere to take really nice photos. So I kind of try to save my portrait shots for those sorts of settings. So I still have about like 12, 13, 14 shots left with the Portra 400 that's in the camera. So the happy consequence of that is we get to use that for British Columbia. Question is, what do I take a photo of? That's the fun part. You don't know what you're going to take a photo of until you see something that you want to take a photo of. But there's a cool barn over there, but I don't know how to get over there because there's a river in the way. That's the thing about just wandering and taking photos, opportunities just kind of pop up and you kind of just have to hope you're ready for them. And 2 massive flocks of Canadian geese just flew by. I think there's lots of potential there. So I tried taking a couple as they flew by because it's kind of a unique opportunity, but not too sure how happy I am with those. But worth the try. All right, come on, let's go. Vancouver. It was only a matter of time before it started raining, and none of my stuff is waterproof. Both the digital camera and the film camera wouldn't fare well in the rain, which I think the rain's gonna stick around for too long to make it worth waiting around. So new day, hopefully some new photos. And what's exciting is the farm I referenced, or I think I referenced earlier in this video, we're gonna go to now. It's a newly purchased farm. So I don't know what's gonna be there, but I think it should make for some cool photos. So let's drive an hour farther east and see what that looks like. I was kind of hoping there was a place to sit down for this part, but I'm not really seeing anything on this path. So I guess we're walking and talking now. I'm really cognizant of the fact that the farm was like 6 seconds of footage, but the point of going to that farm was just quality time with a friend rather than necessarily taking a bunch of pictures. So I think I took a couple cute pictures and got to enjoy that time with my friend. But I think that's a good transition to the second half of this video, which I want to sort of be a reflection on what I've learned having left home and left Canada, and just sort of gather some of my thoughts about it, which I think is good for me and also might be interesting to you guys. But I've spent 3 years living away. I think I put my main takeaways from living away into three main buckets, or 3 main takeaways. And the first one is sort of a concept of quantity of time versus quality of time. So with moving away from home, there's this assumption and sort of reality that you're gonna spend a lot more time away from your loved ones than with your loved ones, you know, and that applies to family, it applies to friends, and you kind of assume that that's gonna lead to sort of the degradation of those relationships to a certain extent. But what I recognize is the context of me leaving. I was leaving just towards the end of COVID, and that meant I had spent about 2 years. Of course, it's starting to rain a little bit again. Hopefully the sun's out, so hopefully that's just a little spit of rain and not too much. But anyways, I left just at the tail end of COVID, which meant I had about 2 years just like living at home, living with family, where the quantity of time that we had together was probably the most quantity that we've had since I was a toddler. And so tons of quantity. But the thing with quantity is when something's readily available to you and it's always just there, you're kind of less incentivized to take advantage of it, you know? But as soon as I moved away and sort of the time that I had with family became more limited, the quality of that time I think definitely went up, whether that be family coming to visit me in Europe, and then the memories we make together by sort of traveling together in Europe is super unique and really sort of really high quality time. And the time that when I'm back home is really special time, because or at least the recognition of time together was a lot more intense, which I really enjoyed. So it's almost as if like sort of the month we get together when I am at home is the equivalent to if we had just another year of COVID together, where you kind of just take it for granted. Second bucket, I think moving away really helped with perspective, especially getting a more clear perspective on the environment that I was raised in and that I grew up with. I spent my whole life living in the same place, right? I've been from Vancouver, spent over 20 years of my life in Vancouver before I moved away. You kind of grew up with these like understandings of how life works and how society works. And it's not until I sort of got out of this bubble with my preconceptions of what is normal, what is not normal, and sort of lived somewhere else where, not like dramatically different, it's not like Germany is like an alien planet to Vancouver or anything, but just sort of there are different norms and different ways society functions. One thing, for example, is I've had to use, in my 3 years away, I had to use German emergency rooms twice. Both of those times, when I used the emergency room, there was no wait time to see a doctor, which if I told myself before having like lived in another country that you could go to the emergency room and just instantly see a doctor for something that wasn't like you bleeding out or having like a heart attack or something, that would be crazy. Like how common it is to have sort of 6, 7, 8 hour wait times in Canadian emergency rooms, and how that's just sort of like understood as what's normal, or at least normal for Canada now. In contrast to seeing a doctor instantly in Germany, it's crazy. And it really makes you question, like, why is it these two sort of industrialized societies have such different outcomes when it comes to healthcare, you know? But that's just like one example, you know, that applies to sort of a bunch of facets in life in terms of like what is normal with like vacation days. Like in Germany, I think legal standard is like 20, 25 vacation days, but it's pretty common to find people with 30. And with my employer, it's 30. So the fact that you can just have 30 vacation days from the beginning of your career, and how that's just normal, you know, that's just accepted by society, and it's just makes you wonder why you can't have those things in Canada. But then on the other hand, there's things like tax. Like in Germany, I'm like entry level income, I'm taxed about like 37%, whereas in Canada, that same job that I had before I transitioned into a German job, I was taxed at 27%. And that 10% is a pretty big difference, you know, when it comes to what you actually take home and can use with it. And sort of balancing like, where is the trade-off? Is like the extra money worth it? Is the extra money not worth it? It helps provide a really cool perspective on what you want in your life and what you prioritize in your life. The last topic or last bucket of takeaways have to do with regret. And I think when I first went to Europe, one of the major motivators was thinking that far down the line, I would regret not doing something like that, you know, not like living somewhere else for a bit, or not going on a bit of an adventure and living in another part of the world, and really seeing another part of the world really sort of thoroughly in a long-term perspective. And now that I'm there, on one hand, obviously the initial reaction is I'm really grateful that I did it, and it feels like I'm avoiding a lot of regret. But where is the line of staying there long enough to be satisfied, and staying long enough or staying too long and regretting staying that long? And I don't know where that line is, you know? Yeah, those are sort of my three biggest thoughts or takeaways about leaving Canada, is the notion of quantity of time versus quality of time, the concept of gaining perspective and being able to see things better when you have different things to compare them to, and thinking about regret and figuring out where the line is of regretting doing something or regretting not doing something, and avoiding sort of that dreaded regret long term in the future. Yeah, a bit different, more of a rant than a video, but hopefully the scenery of Nelson and Victoria made it a bit more engaging, a bit more interesting. So I'm not sure where we're going next, maybe downtown to finish off the video. So we're in Vancouver again, and you're not going to believe this, but it is raining. Now, I know that's a shock for Vancouver, considering it rains 90% of this time of year, but I want to capture downtown. It's going to be impossible to do it without being in this weather, so